Welcome to Belmont Banter, the official podcast of Whitstable Town FC. Every week we chat to ex-players, supporters and invited guests here on Belmont Banter.
Welcome to the official podcast of Whitstable Town FC.
Whitstable Town Football Club's main sponsor is Fibertech UK Limited.
Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to Belmont Banter. And this evening, I've got someone very interesting on because I haven't spoken to Gary before. And as I've said often on this, it's a journey and it's finding out about everyone's football journey. Gary Doe, welcome, mate. And let's find out about your football journey.
Thank you very much.
Where did it all start for you?
As a child, although I was born in Chatham, I actually lived the first 10 years in Painters Forstall, which is a village just outside of Faversham, which is really only known for having the Alma pub there. So, and there was a small green opposite. That was our Wembley as kids. And there was no school there, so we used to get the bus up to Eastling, which was my first school. And then it was, because this was early 60s, it was the first pair of boots were Billy boots, you know, the shiny tan cap and the wooden studs, and obviously the leather ball. And so then that was the first football at school. I can remember we played in a school competition, and I was like one of the nippers, say very young, and we played all the local villages, Shelwich and Tunstall, Milstead, all around that area. And we actually got to the final and lost to Tunstall, I think, 1-0 in the final. So that was my first experience with competition football. And being the youngest at a lot of them, I was sort of, I was taken with the game. So yeah, that was initially, that was it.
That was it. Okay, so back in those days, I'm of your age as well. We didn't have academies, or there wasn't any sort of like grassroots football. It wasn't until you got into, let's call it proper football, Saturday football, that there was any real structure to it. So when was the first team you played for then?
Well, we actually moved down into Faversham when I was 10-ish. We went to the district school. There was no football there, only bragging rights in the playground. Then we went to Ethelbert Road School, where Bobby Mason was already a legend, basically. He's only a couple of years older than me, but Bobby was always well known in Faversham. And the local boys' side was, and the one that everyone, the top side was, I'm pretty sure it was called Faversham Spartak. So when I'd done a couple of months there at Ethelbert Road, I actually went and signed forms for Faversham Spartak. But unfortunately, parents decided we moved up to Medway. So I ended up going to the school up in Chatham and just played football through there. Got to cup competitions. You know, the first time I played to Chatham Football Ground, we won a cup there. There were scouts involved. Yeah, but our headmaster, we actually got pulled in the office because we'd won a cup final at Chatham Football Ground 6-1. I fortunately got the first 4 goals, so I got a bit of the highlights. And the scouts, there was from 3 London clubs and Gillingham. However, we was told by the headmaster in no way was we going to Gillingham. We was sort of 13 at the time, so I don't know what had happened previous, or it might just have been his personal opinion. I don't know, but we never got near Gillingham. However, I think it was about 15, I got a letter from Charlton. So, and again, it's a little bit, I know it's hard to understand, but a little bit different. My parents didn't have a car then, you know, and so I literally walked to Chatham Station, changed at Strood, you know, carry a bag full of boots, changed again at Dartford, I think, got to Charlton, walked up. Theo Foley was in charge of us. Wow. And we had a couple of matches and sessions, and basically he called me over at the end and said, "You're just not big enough, son. You know, you're too little." I probably, looking back, I didn't know him well enough. I didn't know him, full stop, really. But I thought maybe when I went back home and trained, I thought maybe he was just being kind and I, you know, wasn't good enough. Yeah. So, you know, maybe that's what he did. I don't know him. So And looking back at some of the photos of the school, I was indeed, I didn't know at the time, but I was quite titchy, you know, so. But anyway, I never kicked the ball again for a couple of years. Went and done some work up London, come back, didn't do anything. And then I walked into a pub and the guy said, you know, do you want to come and work with me on a building site? So I said, yeah, all right. And then he said, do you play? I'm used to, yeah. Anyway, so I ended up at Lordswood, basically, in the New Brompton League. Quite a good league because it had the Kent League, the 3 Swale sides, and Chatham had their reserves in it. Also a very good side from Sheppey called Victory. So that's how I got back involved, mainly through work. And a Sunday side as well called Star Rollers that were in the bottom league of division or combination league on a Sunday somewhere. But I had to stop all that because there were some great lads and some good players there, and they shouldn't have been in that league. But I played in a game down at Borden Maypole with Mick York and Jeff Orgill playing against him. And the game got abandoned after 26 minutes because there was an altercation, so we say, in the middle of the park. And the referee went storming off, and then in somebody's wisdom said, well, let's just go out without a referee. Yeah, I don't think so, you know, because he couldn't even be controlled when you had a ref. So I think that's probably a no-no. So yeah. I ended up just staying at Lordswood.
What age were you then, Gary?
I was about 17. When I was 15, I played from the school in the morning. I used to play for a men's team called Chatham Amateurs. Again, good bunch of lads there, and they used to look after you as a 15, 16-year-old. I wasn't aware of any junior football going on, and I just loved the game and wanted to play, you know. And I don't remember anyone taking liberties and kicking you or anything, you know. So, but as I say, when I got back into football at Lordswood, I done okay. You know, we won the league, and then the following year we come second, but won the cup. But the Malcolm Ainsley, who was running Chatham Reserves, he was always sort of he always was making a point of coming to see me and how do you fancy coming to play for us? And because when we played for Lordswood, we actually played out at Cliff Woods in just like a public park. So I thought that's quite nice. Go out and play at places like Chatham and Sheppey every week. So that's what I did with Lordswood blessing. Go and enjoy yourself. And they were a very good side. This first team, legends, you know, Bobby Harrison, Roger Steed, Andy Walford, Graham Best was playing there, and Pat McKenna, I believe. It's very difficult to get into as a 17, 18, when you've got, you know, proper players that have played at Gillingham at some level, you know, whereas I'd come up through the grassroots and boys football. So, yeah, that went okay, but I've got a couple of sniffs at being in the first team, and it was good to see because it was a lot more aggressive, shall we say, even in the dressing room. You know, things weren't happening. It was, you know, there was none of this pat on the back or anything like that. There was, you know, doors coming off the hinges and stuff like that. So all good fun. But I suppose I'd done reasonably well because there was a big turnaround at Chatham. It didn't look like I was going to get in there anyway. So, and I was asked to go down. Alan Lillis, Jason's dad, went down and played for Peter Laram at Sittingbourne. And he must have said, oh, he can play. And because I played with Alan's brother, Jack, for Chatham Reserves. So, and I think Peter had taken over Sittingbourne, asked me to go down there. That went quite well. Yeah, it went okay. And to be fair, Chatham got stronger. They went and got Dave Samwell and Steve Brown, Graham Mitchell, Johnny Hopkins from Sheppey, which made them even stronger. Mm-hmm. And Dennis Houston and Kenny Rogers, top players at that level. It enabled me going to Sittingbourne to play first team football and play on a decent ground. I loved the ball ground. We done all right. We was a bit of a raggy ass Rovers type side to start off with, you know. But once Peter got his how he wanted to play, and once he got it, and then the following year we got better players. His boy Carl Laram, Steve Wadhams,
Great lad.
And made us a good side,
Yeah.
good side. And we was going well. And but being a bolshy so and so, and I got dropped for a semi-final of a cup. And although probably, if I'm honest, Peter Atlaron was probably the biggest influence on my career, certainly right at the beginning of it anyway, because he was an ex-England under-23. He knew how to kick the ball. I was like snatching, and I'd come from park football. It's a different world, I needed to learn, and I needed to learn quick. That's what happened, really. But I as I say, Peter, having been a manager, he was probably quite correct in what he did. But we went to a semi-final up at Erith. It's always a quagmire. He's looked at the pitch and he said, I'm going to leave you out today, and I'm going to play Big Steve Cairns up front, who normally played midfield at that time. Believe it or not, but he did, and he was very good at it. And it was the right decision. Steve was ploughing through this matter, and he got a great goal, and we won the semi-final. But it sort of, I didn't accept it as a greenhorn, a bolshy kid, really. And then there was other little bits and pieces, but nothing serious, We still got on really well, but I just thought it was time to move. I mean, I got 9 stitches in my knee up at Dartford Glentworth, and but we were struggling a little bit, and so I played with them on the Tuesday against Kent Police. Done all right again, done okay. But anyway, we parted. They won the cup final. And I was there to watch them, and we bought them a tray of beer, me and Johnny Hopkins and whatever. And but then my first, Arthur Hughes, the Chatham manager, said, come back and play for us. You'll be in the first team. Because we played Chatham twice that year, and they were very good side. We beat them 4-1 and maybe 4-1 twice. And I got a couple of goals in each. So Arthur Hughes, lovely guy, ex-Jules, he said, right, you're coming back with us. If you fill out with Peter, we're signing. And my first game back as sub was against Sittingbourne and Peter Laram. So it's one of those. It's one each. I come on. John Appleyard handballs it virtually with his arm, directs it into mine, and I score from 6 yards, nothing special. Peter gets booked for going ballistic because it was handball. And it was, it was perfect that day. And then a couple of weeks later, I'm playing in a 2-legged final for Chatham with Kenny Rogers and the lads. Graham Mitchell scores a winner. We drew at home. They were Southern League, Southern Premier possibly. Yeah. Nicky Lambert played up front for them. Ex-Everton, ex-Ipswich, played in the 1st Division. Bobby Moss played for them. A good team, and we beat them over 2 legs, drew at home, and we went up there and won 1-0. We had a great time, and then I was asked to go and play for Brian Yeo down at Canterbury.
So that was when the dog trap was down at Canterbury then?
No, it was Speedway.
Oh, Speedway then, yeah.
Yeah. That I didn't like it because when you go, it was a municipal bath. Invariably, it'd be full of grit from the Speedway boys, But it was a great time. I mean, Brian Yeo, Graham Knight, Phil Debs, such characters. And Graham Knight was probably one of the funniest guys I've ever met. He was one of these fellas that would put on a full head gorilla mask and just sit on the front of a ferry from going across to Gosport. And just sit on the front bench seat with this gorilla mask on his head. And then we used to walk right through the high street to get to Gosport's ground. And or he'd wind down the window and ask people for directions with this full-blown gorilla's mask on. He'd just do anything for a gig. Was great lad. Yeah, great lad. And I was still a bit raw. I was only a couple of years, and it's now Southern League, and you're now playing against the big boys and ex-pros and Cole Gilbert and lads like that, Roy Hare, and people that knew what they were doing. You didn't take liberties for those fellas either. But again, I was there for a while, but Brian Yeo was very helpful. I mean, He probably got frustrated with me at the time because I was a greenhorn, but I probably didn't even head the ball properly. I was kicking the ball a bit better after I was with Peter, but I wasn't heading the ball very well. And but I really enjoyed it. Loved playing there. But then I ended back, goodness, with Chatham, I believe. Oh, I was down at Sheppey at one stage as well. I mean, if you hear noise, it's because I'm having to look because, at Chatham, I played for Arthur Hughes, Barry Watling, Duncan McLaughlin, Brian Thompson, Barry Zillwood, Johnny Adams, and I was playing manager there for half a season. Sittingbourne, I played for Peter Larriman twice. But this shows you the measure of Peter Larriman because I was down at Sheppey. I fell out at it seems to be a running theme, I know that, but I fell out, not massively, but I just didn't like it. And see, some things, although we were playing Southern League, we were training twice a week, you're also working and you might be travelling the other end of London or wherever. So it could be, and it's just at the time, it just wasn't right for me to be down at Sheppey. I wasn't enjoying football. It would have been after Christmas sometime. But the measure of Peter Larriman was, he'd come and knocked on my door 5 nights that week. And like Monday, I said, Peter, no, I'm just not, honestly, I fell out of love with football. I was still only a kid. I don't know what I was, 24 or whatever. And he knocked every day. And come Friday, well, we're all in good mood Friday, aren't we? I said, okay, Peter, okay. I thought, he wore me down, but it just showed you, even though I was naive and a bit jumpy and walked away from him, basically, he was there for me. And
that's brilliant.
Happy days. And we first came back, I wasn't playing very well either. I knew I wasn't playing well, but last minute from a corner, we're 0-0. Herne Bay away, I think it was, another good side, and one went off my ear, and we won 1-0. And the Sheppey boys were all giving me stick that night when we met them in the wagon at Hull that lived in Chatham, So yeah, all good fun. But then I started to settle down a little bit and started playing some half-decent football. I played some good stuff when Arthur Irving was manager at Sittingbourne, and it was very new to play like a number 10 role, which suited me as well. So I quite enjoyed that. And then he was assistant to Barry Watling at Chatham. And Barry Watling didn't know me from Adam, and he was ex-Maidstone manager. He was goalkeeper in the same side as Pele in America.
No.
So, yeah, he was, yeah. If you check it, or Google it or whatever. But, yeah, Barry Watling played in the same side as Pele. He was a goalkeeper, Barry Watling. When Pele had finished and was playing in America somewhere. Yeah. So, I thought, well, this is, but he didn't know me from Adam, and he wanted me to play right back. And I'm thinking, either this fellow, this is pre-season. I thought, well, either he's just trying to get me out, Yeah, but it wasn't like we was all on £5 each. It wasn't like a ransom. It wasn't like he needed to get rid of me or anything like that. But after a few weeks, to be honest with you, when I started playing right back, I thought, this is easy. You're in the corner, you can see the whole of the game, you've got no one coming up behind you kicking you. This is lovely, and just knocking the ball down the line or drilling it into someone. I thought, this is easy, it's lovely, I could do this. And but anyway, didn't last long. He had me playing number 10 again, and I started doing really well. We had a great cup run. We ended up Southall. We got them back to Chatham. I scored a goal up there to get an equaliser. We've got them back to Chatham. I've done the silliest thing. It was a Monday evening, and myself and Cole Lamb decided we were going over to see Hughie Stinson. Do you remember Hughie?
Yeah, I do.
We were going over to see Hughie Stinson and Stevie Wren over at one of the pubs over at Gillingham. I remember wrestling with the fridge freezer when I'd got home that evening, and wasn't in the best condition. I went to work the next morning, but someone started up a diesel Lister engine on the mixer, and I had to go home. And it's the only day I've ever lost off of work because of going out and enjoying myself. But it was stupid because we had Southall in the next round, next day. So I rang Carl up. Carl was working for Keebles. And I said, I've had to come home. I'm ill. I'm going to have to tell Barry Watling that I'm coming down with flu or something, you know. And Larry said, go and have a run. Go and run. Get you some gear on. Go up Luton Wreck. You'll be all right. And which I did. I didn't feel right. So as we're walking through the turnstile up past 6, 7 o'clock, whatever it was, I was speaking to one of the lads and they said, look, just get your kit on, run about. Anyway, that's what I did. As it happens, I paid extra time as well. And we won 4-2 and I got a hat trick. So, you know, needless to say, afterwards, when everyone was celebrating, I was on orange and lemonade because I was a lightweight, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, still struggling slightly. Yeah. But it's great days. But
Whitstable Town Football Club's main sponsor is Fibertech UK Limited.
Had I been on a lot of money, I would have thought he was trying to get rid of me. But because I was doing really well from him, he genuinely said to me, you should be playing a high stand. And he said, I've arranged a friendly with Crawley. Johnny Manx was manager. And we beat them 2-0 and I scored both goals. Again, playing for number 10 position. And I was thinking, do I want to go to Crawley? You know, but it never got to it. Next thing, Barry's on the phone. Barry's rung me up and said, Gravesend. Want you to go to Gravesend. What do you think? Well, it's not as far as Crawley, and it's Southern Premier League, which is, another step up. It might be too far, But the manager had been sacked, and they'd put the Kent Youth League manager in charge, which I didn't really know at the time, so it didn't bode well, And when we got in the dressing room, and when I got ready for the first match, I was playing up front with another lad they'd signed, Frank Smith from Orient. And there were some senior pros, one or two, no, one, that's not fair, was doing press ups while this new manager's talking. I'm thinking, this ain't right, And there were some great players and good pros there, Gary Aldous, Kenny Brett, stars, really good, Helen Hart, Jeff Idle. But it wasn't that long before Eddie left. Literally a handful of games, I would think. But again, done okay. I didn't do anything great. And then I had Dad had got meningitis. He was only in his 40s. He'd got meningitis. So I was going up St Thomas's every other day. Tony Burns took over, ex-Arsenal Crystal Palace goalkeeper. Fearsome man, very tough guy, very dapper, very funny, knew his football, but cool, when he went, he used to go, And I don't think I was his cup of tea because he wanted a proper Billy Basher back home, knock everybody down and all the rest of it. So, and then I got bronchitis and I ended up playing a couple of reserve games for him, which was quite a pleasure, to be fair, because there's no pressure. Mickey Ward was a great lad, was running them. And I can remember going to Walthamstow, which was a ground that I'd never been to before, which it's great, Yeah. Joe Longthorne was on that night at Walthamstow. That's how long ago it was, at Walthamstow Stadium. So anyway, I thought, well, this is over. But to be fair, Tony phoned me up. He said, look, I'll be honest with you. He said, it ain't gone well for you. He said, but I'm struggling. I want you to play. So I said, okay. It was Wednesday, Stourbridge away. Right. So now I've got to go to my bosses and say, look, I need half a day off. It doesn't go down well, to be fair. Anyway, we went up there, done okay. Gary Aldous went past 3 people, ran the goalkeeper, just give it to me to tap in from the yard, And so we won 1-0 at Stourbridge. They were struggling. Looks like we was going to go out to Southern Premier. We went up to Chelmsford, got result up there, 3-2, got a goal. I didn't get many either, less than, I don't know, but not many. It went okay, but when the end of the season came, we were safe. We got our results with 2 matches with Dartford over the Christmas and the New Year period, which was great because Ernie Morgan was a good friend, and he was manager of Dartford. Ray Tunbridge, Larriman was playing for him by this stage. Grant Gallagher.
Oh,
tough games, but we drew 0-0 at home, and we actually won up there when they were full from top or whatever, and we were full from bottom. So we had some good days, and we actually we didn't get relegated. So that was great. I wasn't expecting the phone call to go back up there, and I didn't. I ended up at Margate. Terry Morris had asked me a couple of times, I never got there. I think I had a year. I think I went back to Sittingbourne at some stage. I'm sorry about this. I have tried to take some notes, but I did play for a few, and it is a bit sketchy at times. But I ended up at Margate, playing for Johnny Wickings, and Wayne Godden was down there. Terry Norton, Bobby Wilson.
Wow.
Dave Geary, he was one of the youngsters that come through just as I was leaving, but a great lad, Geary. Yeah, great lad. I remember him at the reserves, and I remember him coming into the side. We had a good side. It was one of those clubs, that actually went really well for me, and everything fitted in. And even though, again, Steve Waddens was there, Cole Larriman was there, Andy Walford, Finchy from Medway, Cole Lloyd was already there, Grant Gallagher, and then you put them with all the lads that were all down there, the Bobby Wilsons and the Tessa Nortons and Stoney, Jeff Stone, people like that. Joe Radford was goalkeeper. We had a flipping good side. In fact, a lot of the Medway boys, I think, went just after Christmas. But I stayed down there. I stayed down there for 18 months. I was never prolific. I'd get a few here and there. I'd have my spells. I think I played a lot of games in midfield as well for Wicklow. I think I had something, I worked it out, that I had something like 13 strike partners at one time in 18 months. You seriously, apart from Cole Lloyd, Gallagher, Larry, Waddo, Gary Pugh, I don't know if you can remember Gary Pugh.
No, that's not a name I know.
Gary Pugh was Margate. He done well for himself. He went to Torquay, big, tall guy, very good in the air, very strong. Neil Cugley. Yeah, Neil Cugley was. I partnered him in the second season for a little bit. Darren Hare.
Darren, I know, yeah.
So yeah, all in 18 months. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know what John. God bless him, Wicklow, but yeah, I had quite a few partners. And if I had a bad game, he'd play me midfield anyway. For some reason, he just liked me. And for some reason, I just fitted in with Margate. It just worked for me,
Yeah.
And it went really well. I've a lot to be thankful for with Margate too. So, but I had to come back. In the second half of the season, I left over Christmas time again. But I went and played for Chatham. I needed to be local with stuff going on at home and whatever. So, but I needed to be at home, and I played for Chatham. Chatham were in the Southern League at the same time. I ended up scoring 24 that year, which was good for me. It's not normal, I think I got 13 for Margate, and then I was third top goal scorer in the Southern League that year, which, as I say, is not normally what I was known for.
Fantastic. Yeah.
It went well for me, in that spell. But the funny thing is, I went to Chatham. Duncan McLaughlin was manager, and there was quite a few young faces from Maidstone there that I didn't know. But we fit it. I couldn't hit a barn door. I just wasn't. When I first got there, I just wasn't scoring. I was doing all right. I was doing all my job, hold up play and all that sort of stuff, but just couldn't score. And then our sponsors was Alders, the superstore, They had one in Chatham, and part of the deal was that we played Alders, and there was, apparently they were a good side, and all the rest of it, they played in one of the local division. Anyway, we won 11-1, and Prince Sterling got 5, and I got 5, and something like that. So, but that seemed to, they're just getting them few goals against a not very good side, just a local side.
Just give you a lift.
Yeah, it spurred me. Well, there were 7 games left of the season, and I got 11 goals. 3 against Dover, 2 against Andover. So it just, snowballed. That's where I ended up with 24, I think. Yeah, 13 and 11. 24. So it went well for me, but strangely enough, Duncan McLaughlin left at the end of the season. I'm not sure why. I don't know why. Brian Thompson took over, got on well with Brian, and then went down to training. There was 3 or 4 of us, and Brian left and went to Folkestone, and about, I don't know, 7 or 8 players, maybe 9 players, as many as that, went with him. So obviously, I'd love to sit down with Brian, because I'd never seen him since, to be honest with you. Because for him to do that, there was lots of things going on at Chatham at the time, at the board level, if you want. And obviously, normally the crux is normally money, isn't it? And we were on good money in the Southern League for Chatham, and then all of a sudden we wasn't, So we had a mass exodus. I went to Faversham because Andy Wolford was manager. I trained one night and ruptured a thigh muscle. I was out. I used to go up and watch Chatham, and Bill Tucker and Jack Whiteley looked after them. They got a lot of young lads from Mason. Bill was that area, and some good lads. But it's Southern League, it finds you out. So I remember what they got beat by 6 by Corinthians at one game, which is unheard of, because although Corinthians had people like Essen Taylor and Andy Duggan and I think Ernie played for them later a little bit later after that. I'm sure he did. And the Billings brothers, but they weren't in the, they were never in the top half side anyway at that time of playing. And they put 6 past Chatham, and they were bottom of the league. They're getting smashed, and I was out injured anyway. I couldn't, even though I timed for them, I couldn't. And then they sacked him, and they said, would I look after him? This is about Christmas time. Would I? I was 29. Would I? I was not doing anything else, So okay, we'll have a go. We're going to get relegated anyway, So, but we'll have a go. There was 2 good players there. Actually, that's not true. There was 2 players that were on still good money. And basically, I had to basically say, sorry, lads, you're going to have to take a drop. Instead of getting 30, you're down with everyone else at 10. Purely because the budget, I think I had £120 for the whole of that, including me, the subs, everything. So basically nothing, enough to buy the lads a couple of pints afterwards or something. So the 2 lads that were on 30, obviously, one was a very good goalkeeper. One, Kenny Dyer, smashing midfield player, went and left us. And actually, I think he went down to Torquay as well, or something. He went and played a bit of football. Good lad, good player. But you couldn't spend 3/4 of your budget on 2 players. So, and even at 29-year-old, you know that. So basically, what do? You get in. I spoke to Graham Mitchell and Dave Samuel, who were playing local and were mid to late 30s. Come and do me a favour. Ernie Morgan said there's a 16-year-old called Peter Jarvis playing for Sheppey reserves. Right, we'll get him up. I had to convince Andy Bauer's dad, who was only 16, that he'll be all right. We'll look after him. We won't get hurt. He's tough enough, and he was. Barry Morgan, Ernie's boy, converted him to a right back. I signed 2 guys from the army, Captain Andy Phillips and Corporal Tony Luscombe, which I remember. And so, we were doing okay. We were, we got the odd draw against one of the, the top sides. We beat a couple of sides in and around us. I've got Waddo and Larriman as well that were kicking their heels, come up and give me a hand. And basically, that's what people managed to get people up there. We did get relegated, but it went to the last game. And we were 2-0 up at Ruislip, and we lost 3-2. Oh. So I put that down to my managerial naivety. By that time, I was playing then anyway. I was during the game. so you can't see stuff. You know, you need to be on the line and you can see what's directing it and everything. But anyway, that's the way we actually did get relegated, but by God, we give it a flipping good go. And I was, you know, the massive turnaround. I think we had 17 games to go, and the massive turnaround of the players and the guys that come in. I've got Robbie Grover from Sittingbourne, Martin Ford, God bless him. He was there, and he's told me about a lad that was playing for Whiteleaf. He was playing for Steve Kember, actually. Steve Kember was manager of Whiteleaf. And he come down, it was David Ward. And I had David Ward playing left wing, and who obviously went on and done really well with Sittingbourne, etc. So, and I suppose I got a bit of the bug then, but 29, I didn't really want to be doing it. And you know, at the end of it, I was still gutted, and I think I was still losing sleep a few years later about that last game. Nicely away, but and then what happens? You know, you get in your 30s. I broke my leg a couple of times in my 30s. Once I was helping Barry Zillwood was managing Chatham. He'd ring me up and say, "Come and give us a hand. I'm really struggling." Oh, flipping hell, I've just got into work. All right, come out. Now I broke my leg. It wasn't serious, 4 or 5 weeks out in plaster, wasn't too bad. But the second time I busted it was up opposite the Yorkshire Grey on the Greenwich pitch. If you've got time, it's a reasonably funny story, if breaking a leg can be a funny story, but because it was a nasty one. It was actually in the FA Sunday Cup. I think we were in the last 16, 32, and was playing against, aside from that area, obviously, they had a Kent League forward up front. I was playing at the back, and we were strolling. You know, I don't remember taking the mick verbally, but I was playing well.
Yeah.
You know, back heading to the keeper and all sort of stuff. And anyway, whether someone has said, for Christ's sake, you know, sort him out, or he's not that type of player. Tommy Sampson rang me up the next day and said, "Trust me, he's not that sort of lad." But we've all done it. Someone's took the mickey out of us, and we've left a bit on them, you know. But unfortunately, it was a bad one. But the funny thing was, lucky me, there was ambulance strike, and it's at the Joyce. I think it's Joyce Green Hospital up at Wellingway, and I'm off the side of the pitch, and it was one of those where you pick your calf up, you see your ankle drop, and Lee Thompson was next to me, young Lee Thompson. I thought, this is not good, you know. So anyway, on the side, got on the stretcher. They decided to take me away in a camper van, Toyota Hiace, that one of our lads had, lovely guy, Roy. And anyway, they get me on eventually, and this is painful, getting me on a narrow. I got on there, they shut the doors, start to move, the ambulance turns up. So they get me back out the Hiace. Ambulance people take control, put the inflatable pad underneath, etc. Get to Joyce Green Hospital, and it's like, there must have been 3 light bulbs on in the whole hospital. It was dire. Everything was dark. There was hardly any staff there. They had to, and this is not like the 50s and 60s. This was like, you know, about 1990 or something, you know, 89. I had to sit there while they took x-rays to see if I needed to be operated on, which I wasn't looking forward to. I'll be honest with you, being self-employed. Yeah. Wasn't looking forward to being out of work for a few months. Anyway, come back, it was a spiral break. It actually went down like that, and they felt that it'd be right. So they put a back slab on it, but from your bum right down underneath your sole all the way. And it was about 1.5 inches thick. And Roy had waited for me in the camper van, so all I could do was lay down the middle. And on the way back, I have to say, it was pretty painful. So I was on Cocoldamol or whatever else they give me, and Roy, bless him, got me a few cans of Stella, because I knew I wasn't going to be sleeping that night. It was so painful. I couldn't get upstairs. I just laid on the carpet in the bottom room. However, I opened up the toilet. When I was in the hospital, they said, "Look, you can go shortly, but we're trying to find a pair of crutches for you. I said, well, that, that's going to be useful. What with this back slab on, how the hell am I going to move, So they said, yeah, she'd come back again. She said, we found some screws and we're putting it together right now. So you'll be going in the next 10 minutes. It's fantastic. So I've got me in the camper van with me, laying down. When we get outside where I lived in Walderslade, open the back doors, I'm sliding out, put the crutches down, and then the old wooden type ones, with like a single pivot and a V,
Yeah, I know.
Well, they put one screw in each and they just folded, and I landed on my face out on a camper van. So they get me in the house, and probably the worst night I've ever had. But Phil, who was he was in charge of the community and the academy, I think, at Gillingham Football Club. Yeah. He was involved with us, and he said, look, I'll pick you up in the morning, I'll take you to Medway and we'll get it sorted. So I said, that's fantastic. I really appreciate that, So no, in the morning comes 10 o'clock, sure enough, he's out there, Gillingham FC Academy van, and it's full of the youth team, all sitting down one side, down both sides, with a gap down the middle, and a netting full of balls up behind the. So I've had to lay down on this. You can imagine these kids seeing me yell every time we went over a speed bump or a bump,
screaming in anger.
Yeah, I don't know what they thought. Oh my God, they probably never made another tackle for 3 or 4 games. And then I ended up in the Medway, and they just put a plaster all the way around it. So I was in plaster for 3 months for that, which didn't do me any favours whatsoever. But there you are. But then, having said that, I used to walk everywhere on these crutches, and I can remember the football people. I can remember them crossing the road to come and see me. People like Steve Lovell would come across and say, "How you doing? Are you all right? Do you need anything or anything?" And you always appreciate the football people are by and large really nice people, smashing people, like a family. I'll do anything for you. So that was that really. So I did play again for Johnny Adams up at Chatham, just to prove to myself that I could play. And we had all these good youngsters coming through: Lloyd Hume and Lee Thompson and Ricky Harris, the bestie, obviously Stevie Best, and I decided to go to Lordswood because basically it was more my level. I could hobble round, score a few goals, but unfortunately, at the end of that season, they asked me to take over. So I thought it's probably not a bad thing, to keep in football, because I can't play anymore. No. I was still probably young enough to play, but it just wasn't working. When I was in plaster for 3 months, my ankle was so congealed, I just couldn't move it. No. It took weeks and weeks and weeks before I could actually run about and play football again, but not to any decent level. So I ended up being manager of Lordswood, and the remit was, we want to be in the Kent League, and we were in the Nuclear League. We done okay. It was hard work because, we were organising programmes, and we had great people like Steve Lewis, and Dennis Caulfield, bless him, Dave Sims. But when I first got there, it was a social club, and it still is a social club. It always will. And it's probably one of the best social clubs in Kent. And the cricket were doing really well. The rugby was really doing well. The football not so good, but they wanted to be up there. But there was a little bit, sons and nephews were involved in some of the teams. And then me being the big bad person comes in, and we get better players. I get luckily again with no budget whatsoever. I don't think they still have at Lordswood. I really don't know. I've not been in touch for a long time. However, we got Alan Babers and Jason Lillis, and we got good players in. And not all at once, not right at the beginning, but we done okay. But one of the guys up there resigned because of the way it was going. I think it was, to be honest with you, I think it was more of this. Those boys weren't in the first team anymore. They were in the second team, and the second team was Kent League 2, so that was still a good standard. But once David Sims, he become chairman, and it's Steve Lewis is getting us floodlights sorted and everything, and it just kicked on, and we got into the Kent League. We didn't have a budget, and we'd done really well. I thought, I don't know where we finished in the bottom half, but we done okay. But personal situations, I'm sure you've heard before, happened, and I thought, I'll give this game enough, and I walked away from it. It was the saddest thing I ever did. I had to go and see Dave Sims, who's a great friend. I said, look, I can't do this anymore. It's costing me so much time. The thing is, I was looking after the youth, help training one of the youth team kids, the under 13s, under 14s. If I wasn't training Tuesday and Thursday, I was watching the opposition, or I was watching another game, or possibly a player that scouting for someone that might be good enough for us, from the local leagues, i.e. Gary Lee. We've got Gary Lee, who's a super player. And then Friday, you'd been all night on the phone. So it wasn't great. Wasn't great for the family, really. So that ended, and I'm not the first, and I certainly won't be the last. But I didn't really do much then, because 6 months down the line, some of those lads, Glenn Cooks, Andy Skinner, they were playing for Chatham then. They were my lads at Lordswood, done really well. I was pleased for them. They got to Chatham. Really? And I went up and watched them. I think they were playing at the Garrison Ground for some reason, for a short spell. And I went up and watched them. And but I found that I couldn't enjoy the game of football. I was looking at the game thinking, he should be getting on. Why is he not covering? Why is that fella not doing that? And you can't enjoy a game like that, because you just... So in the end, I just stopped going altogether. Really, that was me and football. But I met some absolutely wonderful people.
Well, I've got to say, it's fantastic, mate. I really, really have enjoyed it. Let me just finish off, but you stay there. So from me here, we're just ending when Gary's just finished his story. It's me here at Belmont Banter and Gary Dale on the other end of the phone. Gary, it's been a pleasure, mate. And I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whitstable Town Football Club's main sponsor is Fibertech UK Limited. They are providers of optical fibre services to the telecoms industry, specialising in optical fibre provision, local and long haul. We offer a full turnkey solution to our clients throughout London and the south of England. Contact us through the website for more details.
Your host, Tony Rouse, every week on Belmont Banter for news about local football in Kent and beyond.
I do hope that you've enjoyed today's episode of Belmont Banter. Don't forget there's a new episode out every week which comes out on a Sunday night, early Monday morning. And you can leave your suggestions for a guest to invite at the end. And leave a like, and don't forget to pass it on to all your mates. Cheers!